This is Matthew Kratters, Bitcoin University, and today I want to welcome you to another edition of Toxic Bitcoin Saturday is Toxic. Besides being a great tautology, it's also a great time to catch up on Bitcoin-related news and laugh at shitcoiners, beginning, of course, with Vitalik Buterin himself in this thread that says, guys, I think Ethereum might actually be going to zero. Let's check out.
And its properties are from better than all the rest of them. It's mathematical. No more double spend. It's encryptable.
When I see videos like this, it just makes me so grateful that Satoshi disappeared. What we're seeing here is just another chapter in Ethereum's slow motion crash and descent into irrelevancy, continuing week after week, month after month to lose value against Bitcoin. I like Tomer's tweet here. Bitcoin proved you can solve the paradox behind the Byzantine generals problem. Ethereum set out to prove that you can both suck and blow at the same time. I think this is a great insight into Ethereum and Vitalik. I also like Terrence's tweet here, asking Senator Elizabeth Warren to subpoena both Satoshi Nakamoto and Vitalik Buterin, the founders and de facto CEOs of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and ask them hard questions about their pump and dump scams on US retail. Another insight into why it's so important that Satoshi disappeared. Meanwhile, in the Kingdom of Bhutan, it turns out they're now holding over 13,000 Bitcoin that they have gained from mining Bitcoin with their own domestic energy resources. This is unbelievable and quite impressive for such a small country. As Mark Harvey points out here, nation-state game theory is playing out in unexpected ways. As measured by Bitcoin per capita, Bhutan is the leader in Bitcoin adoption, having more than 1.6 million sats per person, followed below by El Salvador, United Kingdom, the UK, United States, and China. I would hazard to guess that these two middle ones, at least the UK and the US, all of their Bitcoin was stolen from people. China probably is a mixture of confiscating Bitcoin and mining it, but we can say that Bhutan and El Salvador up here have earned Bitcoin in an honest way, and they now have more sats per person than any other countries in the world, which is quite interesting. If you're enjoying this video so far, I just ask you to help to support the channel. Click the subscribe button. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video. Also share this video with a friend or family member. Moving on to other Bitcoin mining news. In Norway, residents of a small town learned the paradoxical fact that when you shut down Bitcoin mining in your town, rather than making energy cheaper, electricity cheaper, actually makes it more expensive, in this case 20% higher. Moving on to other related news, scientists have captured Earth's climate over the last 485 million years. Here's a surprising place we stand now. And this is not some conspiracy theory. This is from the Washington Post. We can see here what climate change looks like in this incredible bounce we're seeing here. Meanwhile, Microsoft, in a bid to lower carbon emissions the right way, is now restarting 3 Mile Island, which is the notorious nuclear power plant that closed down in the late 70s after a meltdown. It's being resuscitated because the country and big tech is waking up to the fact that we need cheap electricity, zero carbon electricity, and very dense energy sources like nuclear. You can tell here that Microsoft is not using wind and solar for something that's as mission critical as their data centers. Meanwhile, the SEC has been greenlighting trading options for BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF. This is IBIT, and I thought Neil Jacobs here did a great job summarizing why this is bullish for Bitcoin and Bitcoin adoption. Obviously, increased institutional participation, a liquidity boost. Bitcoin options trading can substantially increase liquidity in the market. And then this was an interesting result as well. Higher liquidity generally reduces price volatility, as well as having this ability to hedge with put options, to write covered calls. All of these are volatility dampening. Also, price discovery, as Neil points out here. Options trading helps with better price discovery by allowing market participants to express views on future price movements through both long and short positions. Also as a mainstream adoption signal, and also enables companies to build more complicated structured products and diversified financial products. So that's great news. Also, BlackRock continues to pump Bitcoin and advertise for Bitcoin, putting out this report over the past week how Bitcoin is a unique diversifier and how it makes sense to add to a diversified portfolio and what it will do to returns and volatility and risk. We return to Michael Saylor's 3 catalysts, which he said will take Bitcoin to $5 million over the coming years. Spot Bitcoin ETF approval, which we already have, and that's what IBIT is. Fair value accounting rules from FASB. These have already kicked in as an optional thing. Most companies will be forced to do it beginning in January. This is very good in terms of representing Bitcoin's value on corporate balance sheets in an accurate way, where in the previous system you could only write down the holdings and never write them back up, and it also flowed to the income statement. So that's a very good thing. The third catalyst, of course, is banks custodying and lending against Bitcoin as collateral, and we had some very interesting news on that front with BNY Mellon being identified as the first bank to receive this exemption that will give them the ability to custody Bitcoin. And this is very significant because BNY Mellon is one of the banks, the too big to fail banks, so systemically important, and this bodes well for Bitcoin custody coming to larger players like Goldman Sachs and Bank of America, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, etc. And this will help to mitigate some of the risks we spoke about in this video a couple of days ago about the huge concentration of Bitcoin held at Coinbase and to a lesser extent at places like Fidelity. So this is a great idea, encouraging U.S. regulators to allow more banks to hold and custody Bitcoin. So you'll have less concentration risk at Coinbase custody, where currently most of the Bitcoin that backs the Bitcoin spot ETFs is being held. So this approval of BNY Mellon is inevitable, and it's also a nice road marker on the road to Bitcoin adoption. Meanwhile, we'll talk a little bit more later about the Fed news. They lowered interest rates. They lowered Fed funds 50 basis points last week. I like Parker Lewis's comment here. Remember, whatever happens today, 25 bips, 50 bips, 75 bips, ZIRP, zero interest rate policy, etc. This is the Fed price controlling money, similar to policies to cap prices on food or rent, like rent control or food price control, but far more destructive economically because it distorts all markets and all prices, since interest rates really are the foundation of the financial system and they set the price of everything by setting the discount rates. Study Bitcoin. Only Bitcoin can fix this. I also wanted to draw your attention to American HODL's price targets here in terms of Michael Saylor's price target. So if we look at the base case that Saylor has put out, where by 2045 the expected or the base expectation for Bitcoin is $13 million per coin, then you have a bear case of $3 million per coin, a bull case of $49 million per coin. What American HODL did here is made predictions for what your net worth would look like if you save a certain amount per week and then Bitcoin hits these price targets. So if we use this base target of 13 million by 2045, if you save $20 a week and invest it in Bitcoin, by 2045, you'll end up with $1.2 million. If you save $50 a week, you'll end up with $3 million. If you save $1,000 a week, you will end up with $60 million. And now using Saylor's bull case, you get even more crazy numbers. If you save $20 a week, you'll end up with $3.6 million. So this is something to consider if you're thinking that small amounts of fiat are not going to get you very far with Bitcoin. If we're right about Bitcoin, there's still incredibly explosive growth ahead. Investing $1,000 a week, if Saylor's bull case is met, will end you up with $181 million by 2045. We turn next to a historic moment, the first time that an American president has publicly bought something using Bitcoin. This was President Trump at the Bitcoin dive bar called PubKey in New York City, buying over $1,000 worth of burgers for supporters and friends using the Lightning Network. It looks like he was getting a little help from people, but this is definitely, whatever you think of him, this is a historic moment. Unfortunately, as part of his campaign, he and his family decided to issue a shitcoin, a very scammy shitcoin. They made this announcement of all things on Rug Radio. I'll just play the beginning of this.
Join me live on Twitter Spaces at 8 p.m. this September 16th for the launch of World Liberty Financial. We're embracing the future with crypto and leaving the slow and outdated big bank.
This is one of the most embarrassing announcements I've ever seen. As Pierre Rochard points out here, quite a lot of people are going to learn the difference between crypto and Bitcoin the hard way. Troy Cross pointing out that this particular shitcoin issuance, 70% of these tokens are going to be reserved for the project's insiders. That's the so-called pre-mine. Of the remaining 30% of the tokens distributed via public sale, the founding team will also receive a portion of the proceeds. So this is one of the most lopsided ICOs I've ever seen. Extremely scammy project. And unfortunately, a lot of people are not going to be able to distinguish between this and Bitcoin. I like this meme though, this mid-twit meme where you have the Grok brain saying Trump 2024, you have the midwit saying Trump is pro-crypto, he's not a maxi, and then you have the other end of the IQ spectrum, Trump 2024, protect self-custody, free Ross, pro-Bitcoin, anti-CBDC, right to mine, and Operation Choke Point 2.0. And then I think Naval summed it up the best. The real tax is society forcing otherwise productive people to pay attention to politics. Hopefully you enjoyed that roundup of news on Bitcoin and scammy crypto. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.